Smart 24, driving business.
Well, isn't it amazing? Today is the 9th of October 2023. I know most of you must be chilling in your beds, relaxing, because it's a prolonged weekend. But anyway, my name is Mercy Katsimi and welcome to Smart Minutes Business. Good morning, Uganda. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, the entire globe. We are here serving you as usual from Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. till 9:55 a.m. And today, since we are celebrating our birthday for independence, I call it birthday because that is when we regain our independence. But anyway, we're going to be dissecting much more of this conversation on how Uganda has actually grown economically since 1962 till date. And of course, I have to remind you, we got our independence on the 9th of October 1962. That has to keep in mind. Good morning, good one.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mercy. Good morning, Uganda and Smart Business users.
As you can see, I'm wearing amazing.
Traditional outfit.
I am so jealous.
I'm wearing the kanzu today as a celebration of Uganda's independence. We're very happy. Traditional wear. Yeah, someone missed the brief.
I am so jealous. I should have gotten.
Yes, but we're having such interesting conversations today regarding business and the economic strategies, the general awareness of the economic strategies that we've had since the independence back on October 9th, 1962. We're celebrating our birthday, especially coming from the Uganda Trade Fair Week. This makes a lot of sense now to be able to sort of encapsulate what the last week has been and then diving into the independence and where we have been economically and where we're possibly going and what are the strategies that have failed, what have worked, and what can possibly where we can start to see Uganda grow for the next maybe 90 years as we continue growing. So that's interesting. Yes, Mercy.
Well, don't forget that today, today it's a public holiday and ZAPO is not going to be operational. But anyway, you can reach out to them tomorrow still. If you dial *292#, that is the USSD code. Regardless, we have to get you informed because tomorrow is still a work day. Anyway, for those that want to reach out to ZAPO, dial *292#. And for the prompts, you can learn about the bonds. You can go straight. You can go learn about the products. You can go straight to the bonds, or you could choose, to learn more about ZAPO. But all you can do, all they tell you is to invest as low as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. That's the lowest you can go for. You can choose to invest 15,000 shillings or more, depending on what you have for yourself. Anyway, today being a Monday, it's a public holiday. ZAPO is not operational, but usually always open at 8:15 a.m. till 3:15 p.m. And of course, except for weekends and public holidays, ZAPO says your money is your future, and they're powered by all Tech East Africa, telling you to do something new. Well, we're going to be assessing the general performance of the Ghana's economy since 1962. I know most of us, some of us, the both of us were not in existence by then. So by the time we got there, even by the time we got into existence, the things are like, they weren't like that, so they weren't like now. Now, yeah.
Right, believe it or not, even my mother wasn't alive.
Me too.
At the time of independence. So can you imagine, it's a full circle moment to be able to see how far we've gone. Yes,
61 years.
In 1970 and 1969. It's crazy how time flies. Yeah. But we're so grateful that we are independent because of the people that fought that fight in the beginning to make sure we have our independence and we're able to have the freedoms that we're able to enjoy now. It's such something that we have to be thankful to the economy, to the government. We're grateful. So we're seeing a lot has happened since the 1962 in terms of economy and strategy in Uganda. We're seeing that Uganda's economic strategies since independence in 1962 have been mixed. According to the article, right? In the early years, the country experienced rapid economic growth driven by a strong agriculture sector and investment in infrastructure. I think you've seen we've always been, I think the move back then was always how can we invest in our agriculture system? So that's why it started as making agriculture the center of our economy, right? And then investing in infrastructure. But I think we've made leaps and bounds regarding our agriculture sector, because that's where we've put a lot of focus.
Yeah, because you have to remember those days it was purely subsistence farming.
Yes.
I mean, everyone grew for their own consumption, but now people have gotten more knowledge, they export. So definitely we have grown in terms of agriculture. We are still actually growing. We need to add value. So in 10 years to come, we shall be like, you know what, this is how we were 10 years ago, and now in agriculture, ABC, we are leading exporters of coffee, of bananas. So we want to see that at the end of the day.
Especially with the conversation regarding value addition, right? Well, President Museveni has been talking about value addition all since last month when he met with the South African committee, and we're able to talk about being able to add value to our products before we export them, so we can have more value for our dollar and more value for our buck. But also having had conversations, of course, about Tanzania and how they're diversifying their economy and their portfolio, and having had conversations about Kenya. I would also love to see the next economic strategy. We're bolstering all the other facets of our economy as opposed to just agriculture, being able to see how we can multiply these other facets in terms of fisheries industry, the AI systems, the IT systems, the IT industry. Those are areas that I feel we can bolster even more. So we're seeing in the 1970s and 1980s, Uganda's economy collapsed under the rule of Idi Amin. So Amin's economic policies were disastrous, and the country experienced hyperinflation and widespread poverty. So I've heard from my parents and many before, and my grandparents, that before inflation was at an all-time high back in the early 1970s, because it was hyperinflation. So people were actually walking with wheelbarrows to go and buy a carton of milk or buy a pint of milk. You're walking with wheelbarrows of money. Wheelbarrows full of money. So it was quite interesting how the inflation was quite high, especially after the collapse of Idi Amin. It was a very interesting economic time. So we're seeing in 1986, President Yoweri Museveni came to power and began to implement economic reforms. So these reforms included macroeconomic stabilization, liberalization of trade, and investment, as we see.
Yeah, and of course, looking at me, I want to really implore how far we've gone to eradicate poverty. Much as a huge percentage of Ugandans are still living under poverty. But then if you look back and then now, you see the space is not that much of poverty. People have now come up, even those that are in rural areas now understand the value of agriculture. They do commercial. Yesterday, actually, I was in town and I saw a truck of millet, like a full truck. I'm like, that person, just imagine, is from the village, just like, take a truck, just imagine now.
Yes, and that's a very interesting topic that you talked about, sort of eradication of poverty, especially from an individual level. You see that when in 1986, when Museveni came in, of course, there was a privatization of state-owned properties and state-owned investments and enterprises, right? So we're able to see more and more people starting to privatize and have their own businesses around the 1986 era. This is the late 1980s, after President Yoweri Museveni sort of came into power. There was that advent of, listen, we can also start to have our own investments, enterprises happen, people can be more entrepreneurial. As before, the government basically owned all enterprises and everything was government owned, and now people are having access to be able to be more entrepreneurial. That's why they say Uganda is the best place for entrepreneurship and business, where you're going to get your value for your money. I think that was the report in East Africa that was released in early September. It's a good place for business because people come here, it's favorable conditions for business. It's not as high as other countries in terms of expense, in terms of investing in your business and enterprise. So yes, it's a very good place for business according to report last year.
I think here Uganda's economy grew at an average rate of 6.7% between the years of 1986 till 2019, making it one of the fastest growing economies in Africa.
Interesting, right?
One of the fastest growing economies in Africa.
One of the fastest, and hoping that we're coming back, back to the top.
No, it's just that there is a lot of competition, Godwin.
Right.
Tanzania is at it, Kenya is at it, South Africa is at it. So like for us, we're just like babies.
But I think we know what some of these problems that have come with that, right? One of the reasons why we're still stagnant in some ways, the heavy corruption, greedy leadership,
True.
greedy high cost of doing business in Uganda. People doing underscore business, fraudulence is high. So because of this kind of corruption, it has impeded the growth of our economy. As opposed to when you look at other countries, there's more checks and balances. If you look at where Kenya is and where Tanzania is growing, because it said recently in a report, Tanzania is basically the fastest growing economy in East Africa. In over a week, they're able to do that much change, right? So a lot of that is the leadership, right? Not just our local leaders from all facets of our leadership have failed. So you find that the cost of doing business is high because you're having to pay somebody. You have to bribe somebody to be able to do and get a deal done. So we find there's a lot of shady business in the economy. There's not enough research that is done in doing business. So you find people are just investing without proper checks and balances because of the bias that we're having in our leadership, because of corruption and the greed that the country has faced. So there's some of the many problems that have led the country to not be as further along as it should be. So we're seeing as a result of these reforms earlier, Uganda has experienced sustained economic growth in recent decades. However, the country still faces a number of challenges, including poverty, inequality, and corruption, as we've just mentioned, right? So the general assessment of Uganda's economic strategies since independence, we have so many positive aspects, like Uganda has experienced sustained economic growth, right? We're seeing the country has implemented a number of important economic reforms such as macroeconomic stabilization. We're seeing that trade and investment liberalization and privatization is one of the things we talked about earlier. So people are able to invest on an individual level. So Uganda has made progress in terms of reducing poverty and improving social indicators. However, Mercy, as we talked about, some of the things that have set us back, we look at Uganda's economic growth has been uneven and the country still faces high levels of poverty and inequality. Massive for us to highlight, especially with the tribalism that we face in the country. We have, I don't know over how many tribes in the country alone. So we find that there's this general assessment that some tribes get more favoritism than others. So we
I think it's human. Like, even if it were you and you found a colleague of yours, you'd be like, hey man, you get it? Like you...
not at all. Not at all. I think the mindset is, if you look at Tanzania, I don't think she has to live with that brush, right? Obviously, there's tribalism everywhere. So what happened in Kenya? But if there's checks and balances where there's blind interviewing, blind casting.
Or maybe to access according to performance?
According to merit, as opposed to, this is someone that, we talked about this last week, why the job economy, we're struggling, high rate of unemployment in Uganda. Because people are basically not doing blind interviewing in terms of they're looking at your name first, who you know, who do I know? Oh, this is Auntie so-and-so. They get you through the job without the proper qualifications, without the proper experience. So we find that people who are actually qualified for the job are not getting the job. So some of these checks and balances have to be put in place. We have to have equal amount of hiring. If it's from Baganda, Banyankore, Bachiga, Wasoga, we need to have at least a quota, right? You saw they do in the States. They're required, because of racism, they are required to have a quota for how many black people they affirmative action for how many people that they are hired into a place. So you can't have an all-white place without having your quota for at least 10 black employees, because that creates some sort of equality in some ways, in some sense. So we need to have a lot more equality in terms of hire and fire, which is quite important. And we're seeing another negative impact is the economy is vulnerable to external shocks such as changes in commodity prices and weather conditions. Especially with our agriculture system being at the helm of our economy, right? We're seeing that with the change in weather, with the unpredictable climate. We talked about the El Nino flooding that has been happening in September. The incredible unpredictable weather is also causing that negative effect on our economy, especially since we're not solely, but we're majorly reliant on agriculture.
But then, Godwin, you have to commend the fact that we have had improved systems when it comes to education and healthcare compared to the years. People have access to healthcare centers, though not so much. Though now I think what they have to work on is the distance. Someone has to walk a long distance to the health center, and of course, for mothers, pregnant mothers, it's not advisable. But then for education, oh my goodness, the kids that are going to school, if you compare those days, to go to school, you have to be from a well-off family. But then now with the initiatives of Bonaga Bagagawale, UPE, USE, everyone can go to school. So there is access to education and healthcare, which is something I've seen improving over time. Though there is overwhelming, when it comes to fees dues, it's too much. It is too much money that people have to invest in to take their kids to school. But we are improving when it comes to education and healthcare.
I have to commend that as well, especially the conversation surrounding education and healthcare is like an ongoing one in Uganda, and I see a lot of improvement. Just last week on Friday, I attended an event for Rotary by the Katikiro, where they were literally talking about building a new hospital and a new school. They had just built a school and they had just built a hospital. So there's initiatives also on a local level in terms of the Rotary clubs, the community clubs as well, where there's initiative to be able to promote our healthcare and our education system. I think we're doing really good, and we're doing well in that front. We're not where we need to be, but there's definitely a huge improvement, as you've just said.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just 15 minutes past 7 a.m. and you're still watching Smart Means Business. Wow. Looking at what is happening to the press as we get into it. Independence. 61 years of independence everywhere for Uganda. Anyway, let's get into it and see what we have in the press, what happened over the weekend. Well, of course, the Daily Monitor is really heavy today. I'm guessing what could be in there, but you know, I think they're giving us history on what happens and what has been happening over the years for the last 60 years. And of course, here making a headline, Rwanda asks Uganda to arrest Chinese investor, and of course, the Chinese businessman Chen Chao, one in Kigali, for forgery and tax evasion charges, according to an internal warrant of arrest issued on the 22nd of September by the head of Rwanda's National Prosecution Authority. So the guy is in Uganda. So it is up to us to give him in or keep him. Anyway, away from that, a lot has been happening, but then majorly on celebrating independence today.
Yes, as we're seeing, there's more conversation as well in the News Vision about the Independence Day, and of course we're seeing a president warns against politics, religion of identity. So we're seeing President Yoweri Museveni, First Lady and Education Minister Mrs. Janet Museveni, and Kenyan First Lady Rachel Ruto leave after the prayer breakfast at the State House in Entebbe yesterday. So they're really talking about religion and the independence as we go along. So we're also seeing here Museveni's 8-point program for keeping Uganda independent, as on page 2. He says, of course, President Yoweri Museveni has revealed the 8 ingredients he says would keep Uganda independent if adhered to in a televised address at the nation last evening. You can also check that out in the New Vision.
Well, of course, still more Karamoja farmers killed on post-harvest techniques, and that is what happened over the weekend. And of course, a lot to do with health, a lot to do with, really, the Daily Monitor is actually more of the progress. Uganda at 61, have we improved? So you can get your copy of a Daily Monitor and get to read how far we have improved from the 60 years, now getting into the 61st year. Since we attained our independence. Like we've been discussing, a lot has happened, though we still have a long way to go in regards to, you know, economic development.
Right, and we're also seeing the national news why financing grain production remains a major challenge in Uganda, right? So we're seeing here that for Ugandan and African agriculture to tap into services such as financing markets and machinery subsidies, there is a need for a special team to interface with the service providers on behalf of farmers. The call was made by Pastor Robert Kayanja while making a presentation under the theme, Bulk Grain Production for Sustainable African Food System, a Myth of Reality, as we can see.
Well, I'm seeing here businesses that have stood the test of time. And of course, we have Nyanza Textile Industries Limited, NITIL, and of course, established in the early 50s in Jeru municipality in Buyuke district by the British. These are the ones that have stood the test of time, like, you know, Kachira Sugar Limited. We have Nile Breweries Limited. This has been owned for many years, since 1951.
Wow, that's interesting.
Still running. Wow. And of course, Kachira factory since 1930.
Do you know, I wonder
We
if
have
I
Kilembe
wonder if
copper
we-
mines.
I wonder if we export enough of our Nile beer outside of Uganda.
no, yeah.
Because when you go to Kenya, you barely find a Uganda Waraji. Speaking of Nile beers, right? You don't find it. It's almost like a myth. You have to find it underscore on the black market.
Because they consume most of their products.
I know, we need to export. We have really good quality drink in terms of Ugandans are known for
UG.
drinking, right? So we have UG Premium, we have a coconut, and we have Uganda Nile. People who come to Uganda always want to taste the Nile first. So we need to. I wonder if we're exporting enough of that, right? If we have enough for exportation. So we're saying Mbara's fragile ecosystems under attack. So we're seeing here that the rate at which swamps and other fragile ecosystems are being encroached on despite the watchful eye of leaders continues to baffle many, with the latest being a swamp opposite the Army's 2nd Division Barracks on the Mbara-Masaka Highway. So that's interesting.
And of course, looking for those, maybe for the students, you could have a look at Uganda'S heads of state since independence, and we have those that went for as low as 1 year. For those that that is Godfrey Lukungwe Binaisa. Actually did 1 year. Actually, is it months? And of course, government reforms agriculture sector. And of course, hybrid strategy to make agriculture profitable. This is the backbone of Uganda, of Africa. So we have to make sure that we strategize to make sure that we have something for ourselves. And of course, right about now, we are into the traffic updates, and Andrew Badija is going to take us. Good morning. How is being a public holiday? How is the traffic there?
Look at what is happening that is around the world of traffic. But of course, before I proceed with any other discussions here, of course I would love to say a happy 61st independence, 61 years of self-rule, that is for Uganda. And today is a Monday when we are having actually today's celebrations. And of course, heading into the world of traffic in relation to this day, we can actually really see that it's quite very free. All the junctions, all the routes that are heading towards the city center are actually very, very free. But of course, I'm going to start with my very own back there. That is the access road. You can actually get to see that it's quite a little bit free. And actually, there is nothing really much happening in there. People that are coming in from the 7th Street, 8th Street, you can actually get to experience that and know that today is actually going to be quite smooth when it comes to the flow of activities. There is not really nothing much that is happening in there. Now, of course, talking about people that are coming in from areas like Shibuli, still that are likely to connect to this route, that is the access road. It's quite a free aspect here, and there is not really any much more of vehicles, not even the pedestrians, the passers-by that are moving. It's a public holiday, and definitely a majority of the people are respecting the day. Unlike when you actually go to the city center where it's a little bit slightly congested, it seems to be like it's business as usual as a result of that. But of course, that's how it is standing like at the access road. So any person that is coming in from industrial area, coming in from 6th Street, 7th Street, 8th Street, and you're linking up to the access road, well, no, it's going to be just a walk through actually. Unlike before when you have an interval of about 5 to 7 minutes, but today it's going to be a walkover. Now, of course, let's switch our eyes and take a look at the Ginger Road, and most especially the point of interest there, the junction where the Port Bell Road links up with the Ginger Road right there. It's quite free. Seeing vehicles that are coming in from areas like Nakawa, Chireka, Banda, and accompanied with those vehicles that are coming in from Port Bell Road, that is talking about Bugolobi, Luzirach, Tintale, and even Mutungo. So you can really see it's going to be quite a free move for you today as you're coming, that is to these areas to execute the business. Some people don't love heading into the city that is very congested. So such days can actually be relevant for them to operate, though it's quite sad that some businesses actually don't really operate. But that is the situation. That is how it is standing like. So if you're coming in from Chitintale, Bugolobi, Musira, you're coming in from Nakawa, Chireka, Banda, all areas along Ginger Road, today is going to be quite a free lane for you to make the movements that you ought to make. Now, of course, maybe the absolute factor here is to do with matters for those, there is the construction that is along Spear Motors, which is probably causing quite a number of delays. But today, according to the look of things, if you're coming in from Chireka Banda, you may really just have to come straight because there is not really any congestion that is happening in there. So let not that construction actually worry you at any point. Now, of course, if we are to take a look at that is the Nile Avenue route, yes, which links up straight. That is to Garden City. The situation, how it is standing like there, it's very free, as you can see, no vehicles at all. That is how the situation is really standing out. Talking about people that are likely to come from areas like Wandegea, you're coming in from Mulago, you're coming in from Wandegea, sorry, you know, Kasubi, Namungona, and you're likely to actually use the Mulago roundabout and later on link up with the fairway traffic lights, Garden City. Then you come to the city center. It's quite very free, as you can actually see. Yes, it's very free. All routes are the same. All routes are the same. What you observe on one route is the same that you can actually observe on the other route. Maybe finally we can wind this up as we take a look at the the Kampala Road, where it links up with the Ginger Road, the traffic lights. It's quite very free. So if you're coming in from any of the areas and you're likely to use this route, and you're probably connecting to Nakawa, you're connecting to areas like along Portobello Road, like Bugolobi, Luzira, you're coming in from the city center, it's quite very free for you. It's going to be maybe the only delay might be experienced when you are being held by traffic lights, but the rest is actually very okay. But just an interval of about 3 minutes, you can actually be patient, and I can guarantee you that you'll be able to reach your destination that is in the required time. Well, that is it for the traffic updates this morning. A bit of a region coming live from the Ginger Road traffic lights. But of course, for this time, let's get back to studio with Mercy and Godwin.
Beautiful report there at Access Road. As you can see, being a public holiday, very few vehicles really. Actually, I was coming on my way, Goodwin, and I'm like, for a moment, skip my mind that today is a public holiday. I was wondering, like, people are late for work. But anyway, that's the beauty about it all. Extension, mostly when it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or maybe if public holiday is on a Monday, people tend to be like, you know what, let me sleep it through. But anyway, just 2 minutes to wrap this first 30 minutes of Smart Men's Business. And of course, we shall go for a short break. And coming up is East African news and international business news. Please stick around.
Send it. Email.
Smart 24